What happens when two flagship phones go head-to-head with brand new 200-megapixel telephoto cameras? Today, we're putting the Huawei Pura 90 Pro Max through a full camera test against the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Huawei has dropped the Ultra name and introduced the new Pro Max branding, but the real story is that huge 200-megapixel telephoto sensor. Interestingly, almost every major flagship this year is moving in the same direction. So can Huawei's latest camera system actually deliver in the real world? Let's find out. Big thanks to my tech partner over in China for providing this footage. I really appreciate the support in making this video happen. Hey everyone, Stella here from techiestreet. If you're into staying updated with the newest gadgets, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our latest tech content. Before the photo battle starts, let's quickly check the hardware. The Pura 90 Pro Max keeps Huawei's variable aperture main camera, now expanded from f1.4 all the way to f4.0. The telephoto camera gets a major upgrade too, a large 200-megapixel sensor with 4x optical zoom and Huawei's second-generation Hongfeng color imaging system. The Xiaomi 17 Ultra takes a different path. It keeps its massive 1-inch main sensor and also uses a 200-megapixel telephoto camera. But instead of one focal length, Xiaomi supports continuous optical zoom from 75mm to 100mm, which remains a rare feature in smartphones. Huawei shoots at 24mm, Xiaomi at 23mm, so the view is almost identical. The biggest difference is color processing. Huawei produces brighter, cleaner images with natural-looking greens. Xiaomi pushes darker, more saturated greens, creating a richer but moodier look. But things get interesting with close-up flower shots. Both phones struggle, but for different reasons. Huawei automatically switched to f4.0 and captured incredible detail in the flower center. The stamen looks razor-sharp. The problem, the red petals become heavily oversaturated, almost glowing neon red, making the flower look unnatural. You might be wondering, doesn't Huawei's Hongfeng color system fix that? It actually handles color temperature well. That's why the green leaves still look realistic. But extremely bright reds seem to challenge both Huawei and Xiaomi. In the pursuit of sharpness and vivid colors, their processing simply goes too far. Xiaomi takes a different approach. The petals show better depth and layering, making the flower feel more three-dimensional. However, the center appears soft and slightly out of focus. Its longer minimum focusing distance becomes a clear weakness for macro-style shots. The large sensor creates beautiful blur, but there's a trade-off. So in this close-range test, Huawei wins on sharpness but loses on color accuracy. Xiaomi delivers better colors but softer focus. For most people, sharpness will probably matter more. The differences continue in dynamic scenes. Huawei brightens shadows, which can make images look slightly gray and introduce a bit of noise, but details stay natural. Look closely at wall textures and object outlines. They retain their original shape thanks to Huawei's LoFic single-frame HDR system. Xiaomi does the opposite. It aggressively cleans dark areas, but the processing can go too far. Textures start looking smeared, almost like watercolor paint, while edges become overly smooth and artificial. The noise is gone, but so is some of the real detail. There's another advantage for Huawei worth mentioning. Its variable aperture can create natural starburst effects around bright lights, something most fixed aperture phones struggle to achieve. It adds a more traditional camera feel to certain shots. At 2x zoom, both phones rely on crops from the main sensor, and their styles remain very different. Huawei stays bright and natural. Xiaomi continues with stronger saturation and heavier sharpening, especially around text and fine details. It almost looks like the software is drawing outlines to boost sharpness. Now, let's move to the telephoto cameras. Huawei uses 4x optical zoom, or 96mm. Xiaomi was set to 4.3x, roughly 100mm, for a fair comparison. Since both use 200-megapixel sensors, detail levels are extremely close. Fur, textures, and fine outlines look excellent on both. The difference, once again, comes down to style. Huawei delivers softer, smoother textures, while Xiaomi adds more contrast and sharpening for a crisper appearance. Neither is right or wrong, it depends on what look you prefer. Finally, let's talk about ISC, or in-sensor capture. This technology is a big reason why 200-megapixel telephoto cameras are becoming so popular. Smartphone cameras have physical limits, so manufacturers can't endlessly increase sensor size or lens length. Instead, ISC uses the massive resolution of a 200-megapixel sensor to crop into the image while using advanced processing to preserve detail at longer zoom ranges. So, how well does it work? To find out, both phones were pushed to double their native telephoto zoom. Huawei went to 8x, while Xiaomi reached 8.6x. And surprisingly, Huawei performed extremely well. Even with heavy cropping, small text and fine lines remained impressively sharp and easy to read.
Now here's where things get really interesting. Look closely at Xiaomi's sticker photo, especially the blue square and white text. To pull extra detail from the cropped image, Xiaomi applies very aggressive sharpening. The result? Harsh-looking text and visible white halos around the letters. And if that example isn't obvious enough, this next one makes the difference crystal clear. Check out the photos of the electric bamboo basket, especially the suspended steel cables. Huawei keeps the cables looking natural. Even after a heavy crop, their thickness and contrast still feel realistic. Xiaomi tells a different story. Those white edge artifacts become impossible to miss. Because the cables are so thin, the software boosts the edges aggressively, creating bright white outlines around every cable. The digital processing is very obvious. And that reveals something important. In one of the toughest and most common telephoto scenarios, sensor crop zoom, Huawei currently delivers a more natural-looking result with better depth and realism. Push both phones to 30x zoom, and it becomes an AI battle. Huawei heavily reconstructs the image, sharpening text and keeping it readable. Some letters may look slightly altered, but overall the result remains surprisingly usable. Xiaomi starts struggling here. Text edges become jagged, distortion increases, and readability drops noticeably. Now let's switch to full 200MP telephoto mode. Huawei performs impressively well. Fine details on the brush components remain sharp with excellent texture and edge definition. Xiaomi continues relying heavily on noise reduction. While it cleans up the image effectively, it also wipes away detail. Dark areas, especially the black brush, start looking smeared and muddy. There's another problem too. Xiaomi's shutter speed in 200MP mode is extremely slow. Without a tripod, blurry shots become much easier to capture. Next up, macro photography. Both phones support telephoto macro, but the experience is completely different. Huawei can focus from around 6 centimeters away. Xiaomi needs much more distance before it can lock focus properly. The gap is huge. Simply put, Xiaomi isn't the better choice for serious macro shooting. Moving to portrait mode, Huawei delivers brighter skin tones and a smoother overall look. Portraits feel polished and instantly appealing. Xiaomi goes for a more natural approach, preserving facial shadows and highlights to create stronger depth and dimension. This one really comes down to personal taste, so let me know which style you prefer. The selfie cameras follow the same philosophy. Huawei focuses on brighter skin and cleaner facial contours. Xiaomi prioritizes realistic lighting and natural depth through stronger contrast. Now let's see what happens after dark. Night photography reveals an even bigger difference in style. Huawei keeps scenes looking natural and atmospheric. Shadows stay dark, highlights remain controlled, and the overall mood feels realistic. Xiaomi takes the opposite approach. Its goal is maximum brightness. Dark areas are lifted so aggressively that some photos almost look like they were taken during the day. When it comes to highlight control, Huawei isn't perfect. In this lampshade shot, the center becomes overexposed, with visible flare and fogging spreading into the frame. Surprisingly, Xiaomi handles this scene much better. The light source stays well-defined and glare remains far more controlled. Switching to telephoto at night reveals another major difference: stabilization. Both photos were shot handheld. Huawei delivers a sharp result, but Xiaomi's image suffers from camera shake. And this wasn't a one-off issue. The same blur appeared again in the truck photos, even under fairly decent nighttime lighting. The reason is Xiaomi's aggressive slow shutter strategy. It helps create those extremely bright night shots on the main camera, but on a telephoto lens, it becomes risky. Longer focal lengths amplify movement, reducing the success rate. In the next comparison, both phones captured stable images, making the processing differences easier to see. Huawei sharpens lines aggressively to boost perceived resolution. Sometimes it can look a bit artificial. Xiaomi looks cleaner and smoother, but it achieves that by removing many natural textures and fine details. At 10x zoom, the gap narrows considerably. Both phones show visible noise in darker areas, and neither can fully preserve fine detail once you zoom in closely. So after all these tests, Huawei's biggest strength is consistency. From its LoFic dynamic range system to excellent telephoto macro performance to dependable nighttime shooting, Huawei delivers a very forgiving experience with a high success rate. Yes, it can oversaturate bright reds, and strong light sources at night can expose flare and highlight issues. But when you press the shutter, you're very likely to get a sharp, usable photo with impressive super resolution detail. And that's the final verdict. If you enjoyed this comparison and found the testing fair and helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more camera battles like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.